Peace and love, sisters and brothers. I am Trump the Hippie, your psychedelic president. Keep watching for one of my great peace rallies. Each is different. Help make them go viral. Thank you, fans. Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. Now, I've come up to Canada again to help spread the love around the world. I'm Trump the Hippie. Most people don't even realize how hip I am, but I'm from the hippie generation. Really hip. And humble, too, as you noticed. So we're going to have a wonderful time at this peace rally today. You're going to be able to ask questions because I'm not afraid of my people. I'm not afraid of the American people or the Canadian people. I'm not afraid of anybody. The professional politicians, they are afraid of you because you might ask a question that embarrasses them. I am beyond embarrassment. Hippies do not mind a little embarrassment. That's why they can throw their clothes off, why they can wear long hair. Did you know that in the 60s, when we had long hair, that people would harass us on the street? I'm talking about the males. People would harass us on the street. They'd threaten to beat us up. I was standing on a street corner. A guy spit at me, and the spit landed on the top of my shoe. I remember that so clearly. We had to endure plenty of abuse just to look a little bit hip in the 60s. And the Beatles, they called them a bunch of sissies, and they burned their records in the South, their phonograph records, they burned them in the South. There was tremendous opposition to us hippies because we were for peace and love. So how that's relevant today is we endured all of that. We had to get tough when we were young to endure that. And women, of course, they've endured abuse forever, so that makes them tough too. So the women hippies and the men hippies, we were all toughened by the tremendous opposition, not just from the older people, but from the people our own age. We were the minority. We hippies were the minority, and they were picking on us. In fact, there's a phrase, I don't know if you've heard it in Canada, but there's a phrase called, now, put your fingers in your ears if they're sensitive. They said we were voluntary niggers. Voluntary niggers. You know what that means? Okay, I'll tell you. I'll bring the microphone down to you when you're ready to ask questions or make lengthy comments. So voluntary niggers, they called us voluntary niggers because, some of us were black, or other colors, but some of us were white, but we were volunteering to be a minority, in a sense. We were volunteering to take the abuse, and it was during the civil rights movement too. So that white people and Jews and other people would go supporting the blacks in the South. And it's like volunteering to be a nigger because you're taking the abuse from the southern white bigots who wanted to abuse not just the blacks, but anybody who supported them, who they call, and if you were a woman who liked a black man, you were called a nigger lover. So I was one of the voluntary niggers in a sense, although that word wasn't used a lot in polite society especially. But that very well describes the situation we were in, to be pro-love, pro-peace in a time of hate and war. So that toughened us as hippies. So now, when I'm running for president or need to go to a demonstration, I'm not afraid. I've endured it. I've confronted police. Now, I love the police. They're my allies now, but they weren't always our allies. And not every single police is my ally, even today. But we have to get beyond that confrontation. We have to get back to alliance between the people and the people protecting the people. So it's their job to protect us, and we need them, and they do a good job for the vast majority of the time, so we need to ally with them. This is why, for instance, this is why Black Lives Matter is gone so wrong, because they don't realize that. They don't realize we have to ally with the police. So they're saying, oh, the police beat me up once, so let's not let them in the gay parade. What kind of sense is that? The police that want to be in the gay parade, the pride parade, they're the ones that like us. They're the ones that like the gays, so why would the gays want to throw out the people that like them? Makes no sense. It's crazy. But they think, oh, they're the Black Lives Matter, they're the most progressive people, the most anti-racist people. Well, yeah, in their hearts maybe, but they're stupid. They don't get political strategy. I get political strategy. That's why I'm going to do them more good than, I'm going to do the blacks more good than Black Lives Matter. That's my challenge as president. I'm going to help them more than their stupid, crazy, anti-free speech organizations. And not just on that issue, but on all the other issues as well. I'm going to bring more prosperity, more employment, save the environment more. I'm going to do better than the people who thought that Hillary could have done a good job. She wouldn't. Obama didn't. She wouldn't, because they're controlled by the corporate bosses, because they don't have many other skills. Politics is their only game. So either they get tons of money from the people who have it and get elected, or they lose as a politician. I didn't have that problem, because I made all my money in business, and I spent my own money to get elected. Hillary spent twice as much, which she got from the corporate donors, and still lost, because the people would rather have somebody spending their own money. They'd rather have a billionaire spending their own money than someone who sold out to the corporate elite. And I didn't, and neither did Bernie. Now, if he had won the nomination for the Democratic Party, that would have been more fun. That would have been a much hipper election, me against Bernie. That would have been, well, it was fun either way. But it would have been so Bernie is the outsider, Bernie Sanders, outsider of the Democratic Party. And same with me. So it would have been outsider versus outsider. And why does the United States need that? Because they have the two-party system. You need somebody outside that two-party system coming in to change things around, to drain the swamp, to upend all the tables, to make big changes. You need people outside that system, like me, like Bernie Sanders. And by the way, I got a lot of votes from Bernie Sanders. They don't like to admit that in the Democratic Party. They don't like to admit that their Democrats would rather vote for me than for Hillary when they couldn't have Sanders. But I did. I got a lot of those votes because people want change. People wanted change. And when they vote for outsiders, it's a rejection of the two-party system. So what is the two-party system? You Canadians scratch your heads and you can't figure it out. Well, let me clue you. Most Americans can't figure it out either. 1 in 1,000 Americans really understands the two-party system, if that many, probably fewer. And I didn't understand it at first either. I had to take political science in school to really, before I really understood, what is this two-party system? But there's a shortcut. You kids already know about the internet, and you can find stuff on the internet, right? So two-party system, that phrase, type it in on, what do they call it, where you look for information, Wikipedia. So you look it up there on Wikipedia, and you look up two-party system, and it'll explain it. It's a little bit difficult, but I went to an Ivy League school, so I can understand such stuff. And if you're a little bit bright, you'll be able to understand it and figure out why the U.S. has the two-party system. It's not because it's written in the Constitution that they're going to have a two-party system. No, they hate it. George Washington hated it. And a lot of the founders, they didn't want the two-party system that they saw in England. They were rebelling against England. So they tried to make their constitution different than the traditional constitution in England, and they tried to create a system. Well, George Washington wanted a system that was nonpartisan, no parties, and he refused ever to support or be in any party, in spite of some of the fake media who says he was a Federalist, which he was not. He was not in that party. Anyway, so how did this two-party system come about? Well, it's actually, with the benefit of political science and electoral science, people have now figured out why the US has the two-party system. Nobody could figure it out at first, because the social science had not progressed enough. The mathematics had not progressed enough. Now we have proportional representation, which was invented by two mathematicians. And so now that we can compare the US to proportional representation, we can figure out what's wrong with the US system and why they got the two-party system. Anyway, that's kind of boring. We'll get on to more other stuff. Anyway, they have the two-party system. They all hate it. Every American almost hates it, except those benefiting in their pocketbooks from it. But the average US American, they don't understand the two-party system. Oh, if we could just vote green, or if we could just vote libertarian or reform or something and get rid of it. No, that wouldn't get rid of the two-party system, because it's inherent in the Constitution, not in words, between the lines of the Constitution. You can find out why that system developed, why the two-party system got developed, and it won't be overcome unless you have very drastic laws or constitutional amendments. All right, anybody have a question yet, or you want to hear me drone on for some more?
You're still okay.
I'm still okay. Okay, well, we got to get a little visual. Your eyes are glazing over, I can tell. So I'm going to prove to you how hip I am. So when I came to Canada, I want to build a building, a big tall building. It's actually the tallest in Vancouver, but it doesn't look like it's the tallest, because the second tallest building is on more of a hill. So it's a bit of an illusion, but mine is the tallest, as usual, as you can tell. See my tie, right? Biggest, best, as usual. I do everything the biggest and the best. So, but look at this tower, the Trump Tower on West Georgia Street here in Vancouver, Canada. Look at that tower. It starts off at the bottom, straight. Comes up, but as it comes up, something happens. It twists. It twists as it comes up. It's not straight up and down. See how hip I am? I could do the twist. Come on, baby. Let's do the twist. Come on, baby. You know how to do the twist? Come on. No. Can you do the twist? Yeah, come on. Come on, baby. Let's do, come on, you too. Let's do the twist. Round and up and down and come on, baby, let's do the twist. Okay, so that's how hip I am. I can do the twist. I'm 71 years old. The kids today, they can't dance at all. They could just watch somebody dancing. They live vicariously. So that's the problem with the kids today. They try to live vicariously. They're not activist. They just sit at home and whine and write on the internet, oh, we don't want the police in the Pride Parade. I'll go in the Pride Parade if they let me. No, I love everybody. Well, I live in New York City. You have to love gay people if you live in New York City, and I do. I love everybody. But some of my supporters, they're not so keen on gays, and that's fine, because I'm going to bring everybody together. Bring everybody together, because I'm the hippest, the coolest. Being president is fun. People say, oh no, he's just this bad man. He's this, well, they either think I'm an idiot or they think I'm Hitler, right? So Hitler was not an idiot. He couldn't do what he did if he were an idiot. So if I'm Hitler, I'm not an idiot. And if I'm an idiot, I'm not Hitler, because if I'm an idiot, I'm too stupid to be doing that much damage. But I'm neither. I'm an Ivy League educated genius who grew up with his feet down with the common man. People say, oh, but you got millions from your father to start you off in business. Yeah, but I was working down on the ground with the construction workers. My father didn't spoil me. He could have, but he didn't. He said, okay, here's the construction site. We'll take you over there. You'll be pounding nails with the carpenters and rub shoulders with the common man. So that'll help you in business. Because if you're just an elitist, if you're a spoiled brat, you won't get far in business, unless you're really corrupt, and there's no need for that. So he had me out there pounding nails with the carpenters, and then my father would say, well, look, there's some nails on the ground. Somebody's dropped some nails, and there's all over the construction site. There's nails scattered. I don't know if you've ever been on a construction site, but there are usually a lot of nails on the ground. He has said, oh, pick up those nails. That's a waste. Do you know how much nails cost? 5 cents a pound. My father had me picking up nails. He's a millionaire. He had me picking up nails, future billionaire me, picking up nails for 5 cents a pound. You know what that taught me? The value of money. And save the environment. Nails come from iron ore. You got to save on the iron ore. So I learned a lot of lessons. Humility, the environment, working with the common people, the working class. I'm a working class hero, like John Lennon said. Working with the working class. I got in touch with the working class. So then on my construction sites, I know how to deal with the workers, because I've worked among them. I'm not some elitist pig who doesn't understand. So I can get them on my side. Because if the workers aren't on your side, they're not going to build your building properly. And they're going to try to cheat and be too lazy, and which still happens. So then I have to fire them or not pay them if they don't do a good job. But it's all for the good, because I don't let them take advantage of me. I don't take advantage of them. It's a fair deal. So I'm going to bring a fair deal to the country and get everybody working that wants it or needs to work, or wants and needs to work. No slavery here. And that's what the people want. They want the dignity of work. They don't want, at heart, people don't really just want a handout. They might say they do, but really they're not going to be happy. If they just get a handout, they're just going to go get stoned, and that's not going to make them happy. So we need everyone to have the dignity of work when they want it. When they're ready for it, good. Come at 8 o'clock. Any employment center in the country, you should be able to go in the morning at 8 o'clock and get work that day. If you get there after 8, then they give you work for the next day. Everybody working. If you have a high school diploma or you're at least 19 years old, every single person, I don't care if you're a criminal, I don't care if you're crazy, I don't care if you're a little bit sick, I don't care if you have your baby in tow and you're breastfeeding it, we'll let you work regardless. You can breastfeed with one hand and do some work with your other hand. That's what people did for millions of years, or we couldn't have survived as a race. Women working with their babies, and men working when they needed to, when they wanted to, according to their skills. Now you might say, oh, well, some of these people aren't going to be good workers. Yeah, but if we give them a chance, they can build up their skills. They can work not just these minimum wage jobs that I'm talking about, which would be guaranteed for everybody, but that from there they can build up their skills, build up their dependability, get off drugs, and move into the regular workforce if they want to. Or they can, if they're students, they can work part-time. and pay for their schools. Well, we won't make them pay for their schools anymore. You know, for my generation, for the hippie generation in the 60s, if you didn't have any money, you came from a poor family, didn't matter. You could get a college education almost free, almost free. The state universities, the state colleges, the junior colleges, they were all like pennies to attend those schools. Now, it's a total ripoff. The price of going to school now goes up and up and up and up. Who thought of this? Yeah, the ripoff artists. That who? Not the hippies. Not my generation. Well, the corrupt ones in my generation. Yeah, the ones that are getting rich off it. No, that's not cool. That's not hip. Other countries in Europe, they're not that much different than us, but it's free university if you're in Europe, in the state universities. Not the private ones necessarily, but all the publicly owned universities are free or very, very cheap. Or loans that are easy, small loans that are easy to repay. I don't know all the details, but that's how it was here in the 60s. So why should my generation want to put all of our children and grandchildren into massive debt because certain people are gaining? It's a total ripoff. It's not right. It's not the way to run a country. Since I'm in Canada, let's talk a little bit about Margaret Atwood. You know who that is, right? We had a couple of cheers for Margaret there. Come right in. So Margaret Atwood, come and sit down and join the rally. We might have to eject this person if they're too disruptive. Anyway, because we have great rallies here. So Margaret Atwood, a great Canadian novelist, she wrote this book, The Handmaid's Tale. It's all about how women in this fictional world, I forget when it takes place, but how they're oppressed. And it's not a Muslim world, but actually the similarities are very similar to the extremist Muslim world, where the women are covered. So these women in The Handmaid's Tale are covered, but not, they don't look like Muslims. They have this special, there's a movie out, or a TV show, something about it, where they have these special things that's sort of like a crazy nun costume. Do you remember the flying nun from the 60s? All right, so we have another hippie generation who remembers the flying nun TV show. That was hilarious. So with their crazy nun costumes. So if you want to be a nun, fine, but don't make everybody else wear the same costume. This is where the extremist Muslims have got it all wrong, and they need a reformation in their religion, just like Christianity had a reformation in the Christian religion, to get modern, to get rid of all the women hating and the child hating stuff. Anyway, so The Handmaid's Tale is getting very popular, and it's a way to criticize Muslims without mentioning Muslims, because the anti-free speech people who think they're leftists and who think they're progressive, you can't criticize Muslims anymore. So the backdoor way to do it is by this movie, or this book, which was written decades ago, before all this came up, but it's a backdoor way to criticize the extremist Muslims and tell them, you got to get with the times, man. Like, even in most of the world, the women, Muslims, do not wear head coverings and burqas. It's only the extremists in some countries, not all the countries. The country with the most Muslims in the world is Indonesia. And it's really hot there. It's on the equator, and they can't be bothered with all that garbage on them. It'd be too hot, for one thing, and how are they going to do their work and be sociable with their face covered or constrictive clothing? So now it's starting to be a fad there. But all this women covering stuff, it's basically a fad which started with the upper class. The working class, they didn't have time for it. They didn't have money for it. It was the upper class, and now everybody wants to be, around the world, everybody wants to be middle class or better. So they think, oh, let's act like the upper class and have all our women covered. That's like how the sheikhs do it, and the guys with 10 wives, they cover their wives to control them. Of course, it's very anti-feminist. But they're so smart, they've tricked people into thinking in the West that if anybody criticizes that, they're racist. Bull crap. There's nothing racist about that. For one thing, Islam is not a race. But even if all Muslims were brown or black, it still wouldn't be racist to criticize their religion. Religion is a religion, race is something else. And it's not even religiously intolerant to criticize Islam when it's going off the deep end, because when any religion goes off the deep end, it starts to impinge on human rights. And even in the West, when there's a religion, it goes off the deep end and becomes a so-called cult and starts to enslave people, and they grab your children and brainwash them. We have laws to deal with this. We don't tolerate that. That's not part of religious tolerance. We can tolerate any religion as long as it doesn't go extremist like that and become a cult or become a tool for imperialism. So, which Christianity was in the past, which Judaism was and still is imperialist in Israel. We've got to stop this. Religion can't be used as a tool for imperialism, for religious oppression, like our religion is right, yours is wrong, so we're going to kill you. No, that's not religious tolerance. That's tolerance of intolerance. Why should we be tolerant of intolerance? Wrap your brain around that one. If you're hip, you'll get it. You'll get it. And the people of Europe are starting to get it too. And the so-called progressives who didn't get it and say, oh, just let everybody in, it won't be much of a problem. No, it is a problem. It is a problem when they start bombing, when they start cutting up their girls, which they do, the ones from Eastern Africa, not the ones from Arabia. They cut off half the girls' genitals, This is so-called customary, not in the Quran, but they do it, and we cannot allow that to creep in to the West like it is doing now. And people have been convicted in Britain. I'm not sure about the U.S. They've been convicted of cutting their girls as part of this custom. And the boys being cut, some of us boys were cut too, and that's got to stop too. That's religious fanaticism also. To cut the babies and the small children for some religious, and they dress it up with medical reasons. No, garbage. No, not true. Get back to nature. That's what we hippies are for. Getting back to nature. Maybe we weren't created so bad after all that parts of us have to be cut off. I still have my tonsils and my appendix because I'm a health nut. Anyway, so ready for a question yet? I'll bug the people in the audience. You see, these are my people. I want you to feel a part of this campaign to save the world. Ready with the question?
Not yet.
All right. How about you? All right. So we have some timid people. That's all right. All right. Am I friends with the Russians? I'm friends with everybody. If we can make a deal. So my famous best-selling book was The Art of the Deal. So the Russians, they want to make deals because they want to be capitalists now, but they're a little bit behind because half of them are alcoholics on their vodka. But they want to make a deal. Okay, we'll try to make some deals, and as they get better at it, then we'll make more deals. Now, that's business, but as far as defense, they have a few things to learn there too. But they're friendly with us, and we should be friendly with everybody who wants to be friendly with us. I'd like to be friendly with the Chinese too, and the North Koreans, and the Palestinians. I want to be friends with everyone, but first but it's like a game, right? You stake out your positions, and you challenge the person, and or the country, and you wrestle around a little bit until you come to some resolution. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get resolution with all these warring and competing countries, get everybody on a more peaceful basis, including the Russians. And, well, Putin, he's not perfect, and he's not doing things as I would do them, but we'll hope for the best. We'll give him a chance. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's brave enough to take his shirt off in public, so he's not all bad, right? That's hip. That's hip. What's wrong with the body? If any of the audience members want to take off their shirts, we're not going to go full-on nude here, but if any of the men and women in the audience, especially the women, want to take off their shirts, go right ahead. I won't mind, because for one thing, I want to get the country back onto breastfeeding. My mother, a Scottish immigrant from the Hebrides Islands in the way north of Scotland. My mother, I'm not sure, I'll have to ask my older sister, but she was from way in the sticks, some little village way, beyond civilization practically, and I think they were still a lot into breastfeeding. She must have breastfed me a lot because I'm so confident and so sure of myself, and I love women so much. If you didn't get enough breastfeeding, you're going to have some residual, if not blatant, resentment and hatred and fear of women. That's just how animals are. We're animals. We're mammals. And if we're deprived, if we're traumatized, it's going to be back there in your psyche somewhere. If your foreskin was cut off, if your clitoris was going to get cut off, even if you don't remember it, it's going to be some residual trauma back in your psychology, and we have to understand that. So my mother from Scotland, I think, was more natural. So, and that's what we hippies were trying to do in the 60s. Get back to nature. Don't put poison on our food. Don't make us wear clothes when we don't want to. Get back to breastfeeding, organic food. Save the environment. I'm for the environment. People don't realize it because, well, I have to explain what I had to do in the party system of the U.S. So I wanted to be president a long time. I tried in 1999, a little exploratory campaign. But then this last election, I said, okay, well, am I going to be an independent? Am I going to join a small party? Or am I going to join the Democrats or the Republicans? So I had become more savvy politically, and I realized the only way to do it really was join the Democrats and the Republicans. And the Republicans were much weaker. Much weaker. Their 16 candidates were dull, no sex appeal, no nothing. So it was a better strategy for me to join the Republicans. So that means I'm joining the Republican team. So I'm fighting for the, like in football, right? So your team, you try to help your team. Some of my team members wanted this and that, so I have to give them some of what they want, even if it's not something I would have done if I'd been elected as a Democrat. But I give some of my team what they want, and then we make deals with the other team, and then it all works out in the end. And eventually everybody gets what they need using my style of populist presidency. Now, we started off with the Russians. I think I've strayed a bit. How's that for answering your question way at the back there?
I think that was good.
All right.
What are you going to do about Kim Il?
Kim Il Jung, or whatever his name is, the Rocket Man. Well, I'm going to keep inventing insulting nicknames for him until he gets so embarrassed that he decides to do a deal with me. And then I'll send Dennis Rodman over there or somebody, and we'll make a deal. It's the art of the deal. That's what life is about, dealing. And that's what peace is about talking instead of fighting. I have this badge here. Can you see that on the camera? The badge, this one here, says, "Talks, not troops." One of the peace slogans. Another one is, "Talks, not tanks." In other words, talking instead of fighting. So this is what women generally do, because they're smarter than men like this. They talk instead of fighting, and they can work out some agreement generally.
What about Hillary Clinton?
Well, she likes to fight like a man, because she's hired by the corporate elite to do their fighting for them. And they're fighting, and they're cheating, and they're corruption, and they're selling out, and so on. And so she's their puppet, and the people saw that, so they didn't elect her. Now, if she'd been in there as a real feminist, not a token feminist, then she might have deserved some support. But that was her problem, and of course it was stressful on her, so she had to drink. I never drink. And so I won. Because the people wanted the real deal from a billionaire, even if he's a little bit crass, but he'll get things done. And Hillary was promising no big changes. Just keep things rolling along like they were with Obama. And Obama, yeah, there's another dud. I mean, if he went black, nobody would remember him, or he wouldn't have been elected. And he had some promise too, because when he was a professor or lecturer at Yale, at Harvard, he taught constitutional law. Not just a regular lawyer, he was a constitutional lawyer. So then he was president, he had to swear allegiance to the Constitution of the United States, which includes an amending formula which he never used. He never promoted one constitutional amendment that I ever heard of, and he's a constitutional lawyer. That's his specialty. He should have been on that. He should have been on, we should have had 8 or 10 or 20 constitutional amendments proposed and have them go through the process and make the country great again, but he didn't. His own specialty, he failed in. And as far as being an example, I mean, he was not really that great of an example. He couldn't even quit smoking. I think he pretended to quit a couple of times, but no, he's a weak man. We need a strong man, a strong person in for the job to get some things done. And men and women voted for me. I couldn't have got elected without women's votes and men's votes and all colors of votes, because people could see, no, he's not a tool of the corporate elite. We're tired of that. We're tired of the two-party system. So we're going to get rid of all that, get everybody working that wants to, get everybody happy, get everybody sober and healthy. This is my goal. We'll see how far I can do. I might have to run for a second term if I don't finish it all in the first term. But don't worry, I will win. Don't worry about that. What about the fake media? Now, in the 60s, you might have heard of what was called then the underground media, which means mostly newspapers, but some radio also that was either illegal or close to illegal. So there were radio stations that were on pirate frequencies. There were newspapers that were printed off secretly and distributed around because they had stuff in it that the authorities didn't want to allow, which were either illegal, which shouldn't have been illegal in many cases, or they would just use every trick in the book to shut them down because, they didn't want people talking about sex, or they didn't want people talking about drugs, or they didn't want people talking about peace. So the police cracked down and they tried to shut down as many of these underground newspapers as they could. But I'm of that generation. I read the underground, I can read, you know. So I read the underground papers, and the mainstream press, but that's, mainstream is too long of a word. I like short words, have you noticed? I prefer one-syllable words to two-syllable words. So instead of saying the mainstream media, I just say fake. That's one word. Everybody knows what that means. It comes off the tongue so smoothly. The fake media. So this is the mainstream media. He was full of lies. Who's just serving their corporate masters, just like the politicians. So you don't trust the fake media. Now they print some truth, of course, so you can read them, but you got to sort out the truth from the lies, and that's where it helps to be a little hip. So you can sort out the truth from the lies, or you're going to get brainwashed. You're going to get sucked in. But then eventually, as you get older and older, you realize, well, you know, my life isn't going that way, going that well, buying all the lies from the mainstream media. Maybe I should look at something different. Maybe I should be rebellious. Maybe I should elect somebody into office who's going to raise a little hell, going to stir things up a bit and drain the swamp. Because I'm unhappy, but I'm not really exactly sure why. I think I'll vote for this Trump guy. And they did. And I won. Because I outsmarted them all. Now, I could have got even more votes if I wanted to spend more money, but why waste the money when you can win with a small amount instead of a large amount? But I'll win with a large amount for my re-election because I will have proved myself completely. All right, so what time do we have? We still have another 20 minutes. Great. Corporate greed. Haven't I mentioned that? I thought well, you don't give in to it. So for instance, with healthcare, all right? So what does the big money want with healthcare? They want to charge you more and more, you know, $3,000 for an x-ray or whatever stupid rate they're charging now. Because it's just total corporate greed. Now you look at other countries, and that doesn't happen because they either have universal health care or they're too poor, or for whatever reason, they don't have that stranglehold on the people where they're spending 1/3 of their salary on health care. So I got elected to reject Obamacare, repeal and replace. And I said, you're going to have better health care. So the stupid Republicans in Congress, they can't give me a good health care plan yet that I like, that's going to help, because they're all paid off by corporate greed, as you mentioned. They're paid off by the corporate greed. But I tell them, nope, I'm more powerful than Congress. Forget it. I'm not going to sign any bill into law that's not better than Obamacare. One of the recent ones, I said about it, 2 syllables. Too mean. Mean, in other words, ripping off the people, not giving them enough coverage and charging them way too much. Here in Canada, you spend half what we spend on health care, and you're healthier than we are. So we're gonna compete. It's not going to be exactly like the Canadian system, but it's got to be better than what we have now, or I won't allow it, because they elected me to not allow it, and I'm not going to allow it. All right? How do you like them chickens? Any more questions? Or should I go to my cheat sheet? All right. Now, another way of corporate greed, which everybody, here's something for the young people. Don't you hate it when your cell phone runs out of juice? Right? Now, what is that? Pure corporate greed. They make a lot of money on rechargers, electricity. You get mad, you throw your phone in the ocean when it runs out of juice. Buy another one. Pure corporate greed, trying to wring as much money out of you as they can. So what's the solution? We're going to have a law that when you buy a cell phone, it has to have a crank on it you can wind it up. If you're out in the woods, lost in the woods, your cell phone's dying, just crank it up and you can be saved. Think how many lives we will save because you can wind up your cell phone. Hey, when I grew up, we wound up our... Here's my old watch from my father. I wind it up. No batteries. Hey, I get some exercise in there too, right? The kids are getting soft because their fingers are too weak to wind up a watch. So, and the cell phones, wind it up if it runs out of juice. Well, you could plug it in too, but if you're out lost in the woods, you can't plug it in. So, but it's corporate greed. They don't care. They don't care if you die in the woods. Oh yeah, we can lose a few people in the woods as long as we make our money on the cell phones. No, that's corporate greed. How do you like that for corporate greed? Another one is your cars. Did you know that in the Netherlands, they have a lot of dikes all over the place, and people were driving, having too much to drink, and they drive into the dike or into the slough of water, and the car sinks, and they can't get out because the water pressure keeps the door closed unless you open the window, but the water's got into the electrical system, shorted out the electrical system. You can't open the window because it's run off the power of the car, the electrical power of the car. So you drown, the water rises up, and you drown because you can't open the damn window. Why can't you open the damn window? Because of the greed of the car manufacturers. You should be able to hand crank that window down and get out. But no, we can't have any arm strength with the people. They should not have the option of cranking the window down. Got to make them feel weak and dependent on artificial power. So we're going to have a law, every car, the windows, you have to be able to wind down the windows even if the power is out in your car. That's going to be a law. We'll come up with all these new laws to get rid of corporate greed because we have the power. I'm not a total libertarian. They think, if you're too stupid to buy a car with hand crank windows, well, you deserve to die. That's what the libertarians believe. I don't. I'm not a libertarian. There's some in my party I know. We'll deal with them. So corporate greed, the hand crank on the car windows, and if you have one of those cars and you can't afford to get it converted to hand crank, there are ways you can break the window and get out that way. So in the meantime, but we're going to have the law, all the cars in the future fixed. Get rid of the corporate greed. But even worse problem with the corporate greed is planned obsolescence. Have you heard of this phrase? And what? Engineered failure. That's another phrase, means the same thing. But in the 50s, we kids learned, what's this new thing, planned obsolescence? What is it? Well, they hired a special crew of engineers to come in and analyze the cars and figure out ways to make them wear out faster. Make them wear out faster. That's called planned obsolescence. So then you think, okay, my car's breaking down, I'll buy a new one. So it's corporate greed, total corporate greed, ripping off the people, total rip-off. We've known this from the 50s, planned obsolescence, engineered failure, another word for it. We're going to ban this. Ban it in cars, ban it in cell phones, planned obsolescence, ban it on the internet. These websites fail. Oh no, you have to buy the latest updates. No, you don't need to. That's intentional failure for corporate greed. We're going to have a law against planned obsolescence. It's going to spread. The people are going to be so happy. Everything's going to last a long time. Their cars will last 100 years. All their buildings will last several hundred years. No more planned obsolescence. What a ripoff. That's bad for the environment. What are the two worst things for the environment? No, it's not your plastic shopping bags. That's a distraction. What are the two worst things for the environment? War and planned obsolescence. And overconsumption, same thing. Overpackaging is part of overconsumption, part of planned obsolescence. You open the package, you can't reuse the package. What are you going to do with it? Well, maybe recycle it. No. We're going to minimize, can't get rid of it totally, minimize planned obsolescence, save the environment. No more war, no more planned obsolescence. We'll save the environment. And all the other things will do that, all the other things too. But you have to look at what's really the most important. Plastic shopping bags at the store is important, but it's not in the top 2. It's not in the top 10. It's not even in the top 20. We got to get our priorities right, not get distracted by pseudo greens who distract us on trivial things. Yeah, we'll do the trivial things, but we'll do the important things, more importantly, faster. What else do we have on the list here? Now, how about a national referendum, right? In the United States, in Canada, you've had a couple of national referendums. I've done my research. And what is a national referendum? Well, you put something to a vote and the people decide. Now, in my country, in the States, some of the Western states have state referenda. The state will put a law or a constitutional amendment on the ballot for the people of that state to decide. Sometimes they're binding, sometimes they're not. Anyway, but not on the national level. On the national level, the U.S. has never had a referendum on anything. On anything. So when we come to an insolvable problem, an intractable problem, where we just argue about it for years and years, sometimes the solution is to have a national referendum. Maybe on abortion, maybe on gun control, maybe on some of these things that are tearing the country apart sometimes. Sometimes you need a national referendum to settle it. And then, of course, there can always be another national referendum later if it doesn't work out. But people are afraid of democracy. Oh no, don't let the people decide. They might make the wrong decision. The wrong decision? You mean something the corporate elite doesn't like? Yeah, that could be a wrong decision, I'll betcha. All right, so this is how hip I am. I made your twisting building here in Vancouver. I can dance the twist. Did you know I can sing too? I'm indistinguishable from my hero from the 50s, Paul Robeson. Have you heard of Paul Robeson, the big black singer? They blacklisted him for being a communist. What?
Yes, I heard about him.
He's heard of him. Okay, Paul Robeson, the hero to the blacks, but to me too, because I'm hip. In fact, the first hippies were black. That's another story. But I can sing just like Paul Robeson. Old Man River, that old man river, he just keeps rolling. And that other song, and let my people go. Aren't they a beautiful Paul Robeson imitator? The real Trump imitating Paul Robeson. So that, how did I get off onto that? Anyway. Of course, I'm talented, I'm hip. What was that?
What about those Mexicans? We need a wall. Where's that wall?
The wall is being in the works. It's coming along real fast, and you'll get your wall, of course, and unless we don't need it. But as far as things go, we still need it, so we'll still build it. And it's being built. Now, people say it's racist. No, a wall is not something that some races can climb over and other races cannot climb over. No, walls aren't like that. Walls are not racist. They keep out everybody, and they direct people to the gates where we choose who comes in and who doesn't. So, does the country have a right to choose in and who comes in and who doesn't? Sure. Every country, every self-respecting, halfway organized country is not going to just let anybody come in anytime they want. Well, it used to be like that in the 1700s and the early 1800s. If you could get into the United States, you were an American. There was no question. You couldn't run for president if you weren't born there, but everything else, there was no restrictions. But that didn't work, especially in modern times. Every country has a right to restrict its immigration. Every legitimate country. Now, you could say the U.S. isn't a legitimate country, and Canada isn't a legitimate country. You could say that. And if you're Native American, if you're Native Canadian, or you call them First Nations, some of those people say, yeah, we should have kept you out. We'd be a lot better off now if we had kept you out, because you have come in here and slaughtered us, have taken over, have abused us, and are still slaughtering us and abusing us, and haven't come to a good deal with it. That's another thing. We'll come to a fair deal with them too. Because every country has the right to control its own immigration. And yeah, they suffered for not keeping the Europeans out. So if we're going to have a country now, why should we suffer by having open borders? No, open borders are not fair. They're not democratic. Every country has a right to have their borders. Just like every person has a right to have doors and windows and keep people out that they don't want to come in. That's everybody's right. They have to have a safe space. Everybody has. That's the slogan, by the way. That's the slogan of my opposition. Safe space, and trigger words, and microaggressions, and all these words that are so hard to figure out because they usually mean the opposite of what they're supposed to mean. Microaggression. In other words, something that's too small to worry about. So why are they worrying about it? Why did they give it this special name if it's too small to worry about? If it's micro, that means small. Well, let's deal with the big problems. The micro things aren't worth the president's time, certainly. So thanks, everybody. We'll 3 more minutes on my watch. Enslaved, there's another word. Now, people, my opponents try to twist the words. Did Martin Luther King say that there are enslaved persons? There were enslaved persons? No, he didn't use that word. He said there were slaves. What's the difference? Enslaved person or slave? What's the difference? One is 1 syllable and one is 4 syllables. So this, see, I'm calling them out. I've got their number. They think if they say 4 syllables, they sound smart. And if I say 1 syllable, they think I sound stupid. No, my people know that 1-syllable words are just as good, often better, than 4 syllables. Enslaved person. That's sort of like saying, I'm not a cyclist. I'm not a cyclist, 2 syllables. I'm a cycling person, 4 syllables. Must be better. 4 syllables must be better, so we can't call people cyclists anymore. We have to call them cycling persons. No, ridiculous, ridiculous. Somebody was a slave, somebody was a cyclist, fine. Small words are all right. Save the small words. I love the poorly educated, because they're smart enough not to use too many syllables when they don't need to. Poorly educated people are smart. They voted for me. And I love them because I'm hip. And some of them aren't so hip yet, but I'm helping them get hipper because they're on my team. I want my team to succeed. I want the Republicans to succeed until they throw me out, and then I'll join the Democrats, and they'll have to put up with me, but I'll win re-election as a Democrat if the Republicans throw me out. But they're too stupid to do that anyway, so don't worry about it. And then after my second term, if I need to have a second term, or whenever I quit, anyway, then we'll have our first woman president. You know who that's going to be, right? Ivanka. Yeah. She'll be the great first woman president, if she wants to. I don't know if she really wants to. But I'll support somebody else if she doesn't. And we'll keep making this country great. I actually shouldn't have used the word again. When I said make this country great again, I should have saved 2 syllables there. I should have said make America great, because it hasn't really been ever as great as I'm going to make it. So make America great. And thanks for having me into Canada here, letting me build some of my buildings here so you can get a little of my glory spilling over onto you. You know, be on my team, right? Maybe you can have a Trump party here in Canada. We have a problem of 2 things being named the same name. That's a problem. So Washington, D.C., Washington State, that's confusing. So let's rename Washington, D.C., and we'll call it Trumpburg, District of Trump. So Trumpburg, DT. You see, this is how I get glory. Why do you think I ran for president? To get glory. And how am I going to get glory? By doing a good job. Because I'm not going to get paid off by the corporate elite. Other people run for office to get glory by serving the corporate elite, and then even after they're finished their term, they get paid off by the corporate elite. That's not going to happen to me. So I'm going to get my glory by doing a good job only. That's my only route. That's why you know you're safe with me, the billionaire businessman, because I don't have them to fall back on. Most of them hate me too, because I'm better at it than they are, and it's cutthroat corporatism anyway. So they feel no loyal to me. So I have to get all my glory only one way, serving you, bringing peace and love to the world. Peace, everybody. Thanks for coming. Come to my, thanks very much. Come to my other peace rallies. There are 3 more here in Vancouver. Come to them, enjoy, and come to the other events in the festival also, the Friendly Festival here in Vancouver. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Long live President Trump.
Thank you. He doesn't have a mic. Hail Trump. Yeah, good, okay. Hail, not Heil, okay. Thank you very much. We'll type in the applause later.
Yeah.
Did you know I can sing? What the world needs now is love, sweet love. All you need is love, love. Be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. Give me a head with hair, long, beautiful hair. Kicks won't bring you peace of mind. You don't own me. Don't tell me what to do. He's the universal soldier, and he really is to blame. Maybe someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.